Hi, Douglas Simonson here, coming to you from Mexico with something a little different today. Today I'm going to tell you how I keep my acrylic paints wet. I love acrylics. I started out using oils, but as soon as I discovered acrylics, I never went back. I love that acrylics dry so fast because I like to work fast. I like that they're so tough, tougher than oils, and more light fast than oils too. And I love that they're so easy to use. All you need is water. No turpentine, no linseed oil, no flammable rags that are a problem to dispose of properly, and no toxic fumes either. All that said, sometimes you just wish the paints didn't dry out quite so fast, especially when you're working on a complex painting and you've got all these colors mixed up and they're drying out while you still need them. So today I'm going to give you some of my solutions to that problem. I'm not going to give you all possible solutions. For instance, I don't use retarding medium. That's a medium you can mix with the paint to slow down the drying time. I've tried it. I just didn't like it, didn't feel like I needed it. But you might want to try it, so I'll put a link in the description below. Anyway, what I'm going to give you today are my solutions to the problem of acrylic paints drying out too fast. First and simplest is a spray bottle. Just spray your palette with water every few minutes, and that's going to go a long way toward keeping your paints wet. Of course, you don't want to overdo it or your paint will get all watery. But just a couple of light spritzes every few minutes is going to help a lot. You can obviously get these just about anywhere, but there's a pretty good deal I found on Amazon, so I will put a link to that page in the description. And I should let you know that I use a disposable palette. My two favorites right now are Strathmore and Dick Blick. Either one of these will work great for you. I live in Mexico. I have not found a decent substitute here, so I just bring these back every time I visit the US. I'll put a link to both of them in the description below. Another great help in keeping your paints wet is medium. This is Liquitex Matte Medium. There are a lot of acrylic mediums out there. This is just like the simplest, most straightforward kind. It's just Liquitex Matte Medium. Every time I squeeze out a new batch of paint or mix up a new color, I squeeze some medium into it, and that just makes it a lot wetter and sloppier and keeps it wet a lot longer. Nice thing about this medium is it doesn't thin your paint or weaken the color. Now this is matte medium. There is also a gloss medium available, and you might want to use that if you'd like a glossy finish to your acrylic paintings. I personally can't use that because I like to scan every painting afterwards so that I can turn it into a print or a poster if I want. And with a glossy surface, it's just like impossible to get a good scan. Another really terrific thing about medium is it can bring almost dry paints back to life. Say you're painting on something for the second day and some of your color mixtures are getting a little dry, you can mix them with medium and bring them back to life. It's really useful for that. And now we come to one of my favorite products for keeping acrylic paints wet, and that is the Masterson, I think they call it Stay Wet Paint Box. Now, this is a product where they really push the stay wet part. They've got this stuff that you put in the bottom and you soak it, and it goes underneath your palette and it keeps your paint a lot wetter. I've tried it. It's a pain in the ass for me. I don't like it, but I love the paint box and I use it a lot. I have the 12 by 16 size, which fits my 12 by 16 disposable palette perfectly. And it is airtight. You just have to be really sure when you're putting this lid on that you push down and feel it click into place all the way around. Then you can put that in the refrigerator overnight and your paint is going to be wet the next day. Sometimes it'll even last a couple of days. So this is a really great product for any acrylic painter to have, and I will put a link to it in the description below. Now sometimes when I'm working on a big painting that's taking several days, I have to take drastic measures. And what that means is sometimes even with the Masterson box and the fridge and everything, after a couple of days, some of my paint mixtures are starting to get a little dried out. So what I do is I mix them all with medium to bring them back to life, and I transfer them to a new palette. And that way I can use all those color mixtures I've mixed up for another couple of days without having to remix everything. And of course, whenever I'm actually painting, if I'm going to stop for even a minute or two, I always cover the palette with the bottom of the Masterson box to keep it from drying out. Where you live, whether it's a dry climate or a wet climate or hot or cold, it's going to make a big difference in how fast the paints dry out while you're working. I live in Puerto Vallarta, which is really humid, so that helps. But it's also hot, so I usually have a ceiling fan going, and that doesn't help at all. So that's why I always cover my palette if I'm going to stop painting for even a minute or two. Where you live is going to make a big difference. If you live in a dry climate, you might have to spray the palette with water a lot more often and use more medium. You just have to find what works for you where you live. So those are my tips for keeping acrylic paints wet. I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more painting and drawing demonstrations, and I'll see you next time.